Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this beautiful Saturday. Uh, we are from Birthright by Rainbow Hospitals. Welcome to you to this webinar. Since the time of the lockdown, we have seen that everybody is confined to their homes. A lot of the problems get suppressed, especially when it comes to health related. So there are some nagging questions for which you would have otherwise gone and seen a doctor, but you feel it's okay, put it off later, and we don't know when the later is going to come for now. So we thought let's do this webinar just for women, discussing the gynecological problems and have all your questions answered by our experts. Today, I'm going to welcome you, our experts, Dr. Ambika, Dr. Chetan, and Dr. Subal.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Ambika is, good morning. Dr. Ambika is an eminent clinician with over 10 years of experience in OBG. She did her studies in Davangere and is a rank holder as well. She is well trained to manage high risk pregnancies, and she's also been doing a lot of laparoscopy and hysteroscopy surgery. She specialized in surgical and medical management of gynecological problems like menstrual abnormalities, infertility, prolapsed uterus, fibroids, like hysterectomies and myomectomies. Welcome, Dr. Ambika.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
I now would like to introduce Dr. Chetan. Dr. Chetan is our consultant in obstetric and gynecology. She is experienced in high-risk obstetrics and infertility. She has worked in many leading hospitals in abroad and in India for the last 22 years. And it's her compassion and patience for patients that she's got that she is endured herself and is actively involved in clinical and teaching programs. She is passionate about adolescent gynecology and believes women should be taught from a very young age about their health so that many health problems are addressed sooner and women need a quality life. Welcome, Dr. Chetan.
Thank you. Hello, good morning, everybody.
And finally, we have Dr. Suman Singh, a consultant obstetrics and gynecology. She's been a class topper throughout her college, and she has actually has many degrees to her accolade in terms of the MD, and has worked at Breach Candy and several leading hospitals like Apollo, Fortis, and others. Currently, she is our academic coordinator as well at Birthright by Rainbow. She has been awarded the Mother and Child Care National at the Health Hospital Awards 2020. And her special interests are infertility, high-risk pregnancies, gynecological procedures including laparoscopy, and treating abnormal uterine bleeding and giving more normal deliveries. Welcome, Dr. Suman Singh.
Thank you. Looking forward to an interactive session.
Yes. So we have many people who've already been asking questions to us in our routine practice. And what we've done is we've taken some of these questions, put them up for display, and we will be speaking about them. I would also request all the listeners to please ask your questions in the questions box. We will be taking up as one by one. You can either ask this question as a private question or is open to all, but I will not be revealing the name of the person who's asked the question just to maintain confidentiality. Okay, so we'll start now. We'll first start with Dr. Chetan. The first question is for you. Why do you think women neglect the gynecological problems?
See, as women in India or abroad, we are the mothers of this whole world. So we always want to think about others than themselves. So from beginning, when she is a child, we said study, study. When she gets married, the woman is always thinking about husband and in-laws. And when she has child, she's thinking about her children and in-laws. So her problem is always last in the list. So I think we should address this issue and say, as a mother or as a daughter, you should always think about yourselves first and also about others, because they're busy with other work. That's what is the main problem.
Yes.
Their household work, their studies, their office work, they just don't have time for themselves, and they think it is silly even to go to the hospitals.
Yeah. So Dr. Suman, you think they should really be doing this, or should they feel that fine, let's actually go and get help, at least seek for some help?
I think the woman is the nucleus of the family. And if she is healthy, she can also maintain a healthy family life. Okay, it's important for anybody not to neglect their health. And not just women, I mean, everybody has to take care of their own health. It's their primary responsibility. So yes, they should seek help in time.
Okay, great. I'll be taking the first audience question. Dr. Ambika, if you could please answer this question. This is a
Yes.
patient. He is delivered in 2018 on July 30th at Rainbow itself. And till date, she's actually feeding the baby. And her weight is 75 kgs. Her height is 5.1. And
Okay.
should
So
she
it's-
stopping breastfeeding now, or what should she do? She's delivered in
I think
2018.
yeah, 2018, it's almost like 2 years now. So it's the ideal time that she can stop feeding. As such, also 1 year is an ideal time to feed the baby. Even though pediatricians tell 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, it's your choice, all said and done. But 2 years definitely is an ideal time to stop feeding. And eventually, I think she should be looking to losing weight because she's slightly on the higher side of weight. 75 is slightly higher weight. So weight loss and exercise and look into her diet so that the BMI comes to normal, and rest of the, I mean, suppose she has any other health issues, she can address that.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Suman, I would like you to take up the next question. So here is somebody who is 29 years old with a 2 years old baby. And now again, she has got pregnant for the second time. And this is the 7th month of the pregnancy. Last time in her first pregnancy, she faced severe itching. What should she do to avoid it this time?
Okay, so itching in pregnancy sometimes is a marker for, intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. And so if she's had a past history of that, okay, this time she must evaluate her liver enzymes, okay, and check if that's normal. If it's normal, she can just take, simple creams which will help her to ease the itching. In case her liver enzymes are increased, then it's definitely mandatory for her to take medication so that the negative effects of that on the baby can be mitigated.
So I would also like to add that we have video consulting. So in case somebody is not able to visit us, they can
Yeah.
always call our phone number. That's 1-800-2122, or visit our website and book a video consult. For the convenience of all the viewers, I've actually left the website address and the phone number at the end of the screen, so it can be picked up easily. Dr. Chetan,
Yeah.
a listener here has actually asked us, what is the remedy for headache and stomachache during periods? And this question, I'm sure everybody will have.
Very much true.
See, there is some condition called as premenstrual syndrome or a menstrual cramps and the headache. So what we tell for all these teenage girls is they should learn to do yoga, meditation and exercises throughout the month or throughout the year. That itself will relieve their headache, and they should drink plenty of water. And if they are active throughout the month, to a certain extent their headache and abdominal pains will come down. Swimming is a very good exercise for them, along with that pranayama and meditation. But if it is really more painful, we expect them to come to the hospital. Then we evaluate, because if there is severe headache and abdominal pain, is there any other thing which we are missing, like ovarian cyst or endometriosis, things like that. So it's the doctor who will tell whether only the medications like painkillers are enough or other medications are needed other than their yoga and meditations.
True.
Okay.
So they had to have video consultation first, and they had to come to the hospital during the COVID times. Other than that, we do like to see them and evaluate them.
Okay, that's great.
In whichever age group they are, whether they are teenage or 30 to
They've not
40
met.
or perimenopausal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Ambika, I will take questions of two people for you because of similar questions. This is
Yeah.
around the internal healing after a C-section. What should be avoided and how long will it take to internally heal?
Okay. The other question?
Same thing. Two people are
Same.
asking the same
Yeah.
question on
See,
internal
on an
healing.
overall basis, see, we are using absorbable sutures now, and suture removals are not necessary. Most of you would have known that the surgical site heals by itself. So we leave it open after a week after your surgery and all that. So the outside healing looks okay after a week or 10 days also. The internal healing, yes, takes some time because it's a major surgery. Cesarean section, even though widely done now, is also a major surgery, and the internal healing would take about 6 to 8 weeks. So in this 6 to 8 weeks, we don't want you to do vigorous exercises, lifting weights and all that. But that does not mean that you should be under bed rest, you should be completely, taking morning till night rest and not do anything and all that. You can do a routine regular work, and your simple taking care of the baby or the household works and all that. But as I told you, vigorous exercises plus the lifting weights is what you need to avoid. By the 6 to 8 weeks, we usually call you for a second follow up when we examine you, look into the things, and see your symptoms, and then tell you the further postnatal exercises.
That's nice. Dr. Suman, a listener has actually asked a question to you directly. They're asking, during pregnancy, even after 37 weeks, if the head of the baby is not fixed in the pelvic bone uh, due to till due date, and she did not go into labor, so normal delivery is not possible, or is C-section the option?
Okay, so typically it depends upon whether she is a first-time pregnant lady or whether it is a second pregnancy. For a preemie, that is a lady who's pregnant for the first time, we will expect the head to get engaged around 38 weeks. So at 37 weeks, she still has time. She has to wait. Okay. Now, typically, most of us we'd wait till the due date. Okay, for the lady to get into labor. Induction of labor is done only in certain cases for obstetric reasons. If there is, high BP or if there's, diabetes or anything, in those situations we induce labor. Otherwise, we would allow her to go to term and give enough time for the head to fix. So just having a head which is not fixed at 37 weeks is definitely not an indication for a cesarean. Okay. Now, for a lady who's pregnant for the second time, okay, you will expect the head to get fixed or engaged or enter the pelvis in labor. It doesn't happen in the antenatal period or the period that is before labor. So we just have to wait. It's not an indication for a section.
Okay.
What
So
she's
that
meaning is there is still time during labor.
Yes, sometimes if the baby is very big, very obviously big, like you have an ultrasound and you know that this is a large size baby, a 3.8 kg, a 4 kg baby, and then obviously, even if you're going to wait, there is no way that the head is going to enter the pelvis. In those situations, okay, then it's an obstetric reason wherein you have evidence of a large baby, and then you really don't see the point in waiting, wherein you might take a decision for an elective or a planned cesarean, okay, in those cases.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Dr. Chetan, somebody here is asking that she delivered a baby in 2018 and is now 31 years old. Is it the right time to plan for a second baby?
Yeah, that should be right, because she's already 31 years and her baby is 2 years old. So if she says I want to have a baby after 2 years, by that time she'll become 34 or 35, and with age there is a chance that some of them can develop blood pressure, sugar, or other problems. So it's best that 2 years gap she can have a second child. Earlier concept was 5 years, now we have come back to 2 years. Even the children grow together, the parents have less headache of rearing the children also.
I'm sure that will be very helpful advice.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Dr. Ambika, a person here is suffering from adenomyosis problem since 4 years, and she hasn't got any kids till now. She's 27 years of age. Is it possible to get pregnant with this problem?
Definitely, yes. Adenomyosis usually does not cause, it is not like adenomyosis always causes infertility, or adenomyosis does not allow the pregnancies to happen. Whenever the pregnancies are not happening, yes, that needs to be investigated and treated. And adenomyosis is not something which is not treatable. Yes, it usually causes heavy bleeding to usually heavy pain during periods, what we call as a dysmenorrhea, that needs to be treated, and she needs to go to the doctor who is also an infertility specialist, so that both can be taken together and she can conceive as early as possible. Adenomyosis is not an indication to remove the uterus or do anything drastic or anything like that.
Okay. So, Dr. Suman, this question, they've not given a lot of details, but what they've said is that she's 31 years old. She delivered a baby in March 2019. The period duration has reduced from 4 days to 3 days, and the egg quality is also not very good. Is this expected?
Okay, so a period flow duration of 3 days is still within the normal range. Okay, typically we say only if the flow is less than 2 days, then it is considered a lighter flow than normal. So that's not a concern. Now, if she says her egg quality is not good, I don't know how she's come to that conclusion. Okay, so obviously I would need more information in terms of her hormones for us to evaluate whether there is some evidence that she's not ovulating too well. Otherwise, how do you say egg quality is not good based on a cycle length? Okay, so there is no way of corroborating that. Yeah, so we would need more information to answer that question.
Okay, so for this person who's
But
asked
the
the
cycle
question,
length of 3 days is normal.
yeah, so I think you can actually come book a video
Come to
consult
the
with us
hospital.
or come
Correct.
down
Yeah.
and see us in
Yeah.
person
Evaluate
and
her
we
and
will
yeah,
help. Yeah.
take it from there. Absolutely.
Dr. Chetan, here is a person's mother is 50 years old. She has attained menopause. But then
Okay.
excess water is coming along with white discharge, and while it is there, it is causing itching problems.
Mm.
What do you have to
Fine.
say about this?
Yeah. See, she is already menopausal. We don't know since when. And she's having white watery discharge, which is itching. So obviously there is some amount of infection. But I cannot say just by listening to this whether it is a vulval vaginal infection or is there any watery discharge also coming from the cervix. So any lady of this age group between 45 to 50, I don't do the video consultation. I say please come to the hospital. I have to see you as a breast, tummy as well as the cervix and vagina. Then only it's always better to treat, because first thing in this age group is we have to rule out malignancies or cancers.
Okay. So I must tell you that we have a lot of precautions that we've taken for anybody walking into the hospital. We do thermal scanning of all the visitors and patients, all the attendants to the hospital. There are separate areas where patients with high risk obstetrics and cases are seen. The staff and everyone is in adequate PPE and gear, so that there's always distancing maintained, even in terms of the billing itself also is contactless billing. So we are doing our best to make this as safe as an environment as possible in case you have to come down for any consult or procedure. Now, Dr. Ambika, which menstrual problems are abnormal?
Yeah. See, on an overall basis, to understand what is abnormal, it is very, very important to understand what is normal. This is the usual, confusion which comes to patients, that what is abnormal, what is normal, when do we need to get back to the doctor. So as such also, the period does not mean that it has to happen exactly at 28 days and the bleeding only is for 3 days. This is not the normal period. The period, the cycles can vary, the amount of bleeding can vary. The period length can be between 21 days, in fact 25 to 35 days, and the bleeding can be as less as 2 to 3 days and as more as 6 to 7 days. Whenever this is not maintained, that means the periods is happening every 40 days, 45 days, or happening every 15, 20 days, or the bleeding is more than 10 days or just 1 or 2 days, is when it is called as abnormal. That is when you need to come to the hospital. This is the overall thing, as I told. So they have to understand what is normal. So, and whenever it is not fitting to the normal is when they need to report to the doctor.
Okay. Dr. Suman, since abnormal bleeding is something that you deal with very regularly, here is a person who's asking that she had miscarriage of a 2 months of pregnancy. About 3 weeks back was a miscarriage. The bleeding is still continuing now. Is there anything which needs to be worried about?
Right. So if she's had a miscarriage, okay, what I need to know is whether it was a spontaneous abortion. Okay, did she start bleeding on her own, or whether the pregnancy was not doing well, okay, and therefore a tablet or medication was given for it to, be cleared out through medication. Anytime if somebody has had an abortion, typically we would expect her bleeding to complete in a week's time. Okay. Now, if she is bleeding for a prolonged period, now here she is bleeding for more than 2 weeks, what is our main concern? We are worried about whether the abortion is incomplete, whether there is still some products inside the uterus because of which the uterus is not yet emptied and she's continuing to bleed. So this is something that needs to be evaluated, because if there are retained products of conception, they can become a focus of infection. And obviously the lady continues to bleed for a longer time, she can get anemic. So she needs to be evaluated. The second thing is we will also need to understand why her pregnancy didn't do well, whether she had a thyroid problem, whether there was a sugar issue, whether there was something else anatomically in the uterus which didn't make it conducive for the pregnancy to hold on well, and then give her corrective measures in the subsequent pregnancy.
Okay. So thank you for answering that. Dr. Ambika, so we have here a rainbow mother. She delivered for the second time in 2016, and she has done with her family planning as well. Now, she had fibroids at the time of the second delivery, and now the tummy has been getting bigger and bigger at the time of periods. but after the periods is over, it will become fine. How should she get rid of this problem?
As such, see, fibroid can be different in sizes and the symptoms it produces. If she had fibroids during the delivery which was noticed, she has to get back to the doctor, to us, to see how big it is or how small it is, because usually fibroids, you become bigger during pregnancy and eventually become a little smaller than compared to the pregnancy levels. But yes, if it is producing symptoms like heavy bleeding or any pressure symptoms, is when needs to be addressed or removed or anything like that, because the presence of fibroid itself does not warrant removal. And bloating during the periods time is the what is the usual thing she must be having, because it is unlikely that it suddenly becomes bigger during periods and becomes smaller after the periods, because fibroids, if it's a mass, it is not something which is just like a cyst or something like that,
Body.
that it will be produced like that, or she can notice it like that. Let her get back to us.
Okay, fine. So you can always, ma'am, whoever asked this question, you can always seek either a video consult with us or see us in person. And Dr. Chetan, since you're very passionate about deliveries, especially normal deliveries and all, here is a mother who's asking that she had a first delivery via C-section. This is the second delivery. Will there be any complications in the 8th and the 9th month because of the extending belly? And is there going to be any problem because of the scar? Can she do a normal delivery, and what precautions she needs to take?
Okay. See, here I don't know when the C-section was done. That is how many years back interval, and what was the indication for the C-section. Apart
Mhm.
from that, if right now in this pregnancy, if the baby size is normal, and we all, that is around the 9th month, and we always check the pelvis if it is of a normal size pelvis. If there is no other risk factors like blood pressure and diabetes, and if the growth is fine and water level is fine, we will say, if the patient wants, we can say we can give a trial of scar. It's called the VBAC. When we are giving a VBAC, patient can always come in a active labor on her own. We tell them we should have a short trial of labor, means within 6 to 8 hours of time, patient should have a delivery where she's progressing well with good uterine contractions, which is happening in a normal, smooth way. Baby's heartbeat will be monitored continuously with a continuous CTG. So if there's any dips up and down, then we say there is a fetal distress that can happen just because of the labor pains also. Sometimes there is a danger of scar giving away, which is called a scar rupture. It can rupture completely, or that could be an early sign that it is about to rupture. So if that time we do an emergency C-section, so we explain to them the dangers of giving a trial of scar, and we take their signature. Not that every patient will have a scar rupture, but there is a possibility. And prolonged labor also can be because of the cervix which is not opening like how it should open, or the baby's head is not coming down like how it should come. So after explaining all this, if the patient accepts, we do give them a trial of scar, and we try for the trial of scar. But baby size should be average and the pelvis should be okay. These are the mandatory factors.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that. Dr.
Thank you.
Suman, now this is a question which probably every delivered mother has. The mother is 31 years old, delivered the baby in 2018, and the weight is 100 plus. Right now, she's unable to control the weight. She doesn't eat much food and is following diet, but still there is more weight in the abdomen portion and not in a good shape after delivery.
What is the
What
question?
can be done? The question is how to kind of get back to shape, or what to do now with the uncontrollable weight and the unshapely body.
Right. What I find is that many people have the notion that, okay, they've delivered and now they've put on all this pregnancy weight and it can't go off. Okay, people have to understand that 80% of the weight loss is actually your diet. When people talk about, okay, they're eating, less amount and they're not eating, too much, and they still don't understand why they're not losing weight, very often when we actually delve into their diet chart, we find so many loopholes in the kind of diet that they are following. Typically, we tell patients to have a low carb diet, low fat diet, and to have multiple small meals, okay, with small portion, control. It's important that women space out their food and have, at regular intervals, maybe every 3 to 4 hours, but small quantities of food. Typically, a lot of people, in the south, in Bangalore, are basically rice eaters, and there's a lot of carbohydrate-rich food that is given. Also in the north, a lot of heavy duty dry fruits and ghee and all that is added to the mother after the delivery. So definitely she's overfed a lot of times, okay, just to ensure enough lactation to the baby, and all this extra fat that is there in her needs to come down. And it's not that it's not possible. If somebody really puts their mind to it and has a proper diet counseling, there are dietitians. A dietitian in Rainbow can sit down with her, and she can actually draw up a chart and guide her along the way and sort of monitor her progress, and see where she's faltering, see where she needs a little bit of extra help. Okay, the diet is very important. The second thing is that exercise. Many a times you find that a woman says, okay, I've had a cesarean, so I have not exercised after that because the mother or the mother-in-law or some older person in the family has told her that no, she should not exercise since she has had a surgery. So that is completely wrong. 2 months is a healing period after a cesarean section. So nothing is preventing her from going out and doing her, daily routine exercises. It's not important. That is not necessary that she has to go to a gym. Just simple brisk walk every day. She can start off with half an hour every day, step it up to 45 minutes, and then make it an hour at least. At least 5 to 6 days in a week is also good enough. But the important thing is consistency. And the important thing is also to have focus and keep to your plans and say, okay, fine, give yourself enough time to do it. Do it the right way, do it with a healthy diet control. Don't go on these fad diets. Many times people do these keto diets and all these GM diets and all that, which is, it's a fad diet. How long can you really go on to that? And in the long run, again, when you bounce back to your normal eating habits, things go back to the original, off track mode. Thirdly is a lot of people are working women. So their work hours are so long. They come back home at 9 and they're cooking their dinner at 10, and they're having the dinner at 11 or 12 in the night. If you look at the lifestyle changes that these people need to undergo, it's a drastic amount of, change that they actually would have to be focused and stick to the plan. The number of cups of coffee that the people take, the kind of junk food that they're eating in the office spaces, and late dinners. If somebody's going to have dinner so late in the night, there's no way they're going to lose weight. So I think if you have the mindset to lose weight and you work on it, I mean, if people like your favorite heroines can do it and they're losing like 40-45 kgs, why can't you? Everybody can do it. You put your mind to it and there's nothing that you can't achieve. Stick to the plan. That's all.
The important thing is to not give excuses, basically. They give excuses that cesarean section people, I mean, after cesarean section, you can't lose weight. After cesarean section, your tummy is going to be like this. After this, you're going to have a backache. This notion, which is the preoccupation they have in their mind, is what avoids them doing this, is what I feel.
Okay. And Dr. Chetan, what do you talk about all this, these things, where they say we have to tie the stomach after delivery and all? And is
No,
it
no,
like
I
if they
don't.
do all
No,
that?
I don't. No, people have a wrong notion saying that if they tie their stomach, the tummy will go inside. That's a
That's
wrong
fine.
notion. Just because the tummy would have stretched too much, if they have a abdominal binder, they feel little better, when they're walking around. Otherwise, they feel the tummy is hanging. That's all I tell. But exercise they have to do to maintain the tone of the abdomen. And then, as they said later, good dieting, walking, and the normal working, and all those things will help them. In fact, they keep asking us, "Oh, doctor, you have such a big daughter that this blah blah blah." I say I work at home and in the hospital. Why not you people? Like that.
Okay. That's nice.
Okay.
So it's not something which is impossible. That's nice to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Ambika, we have a person here who's asking that she's delivered 7 months back, and it is when even now, whenever there is an urge to urinate, a few droplets come out. Is it a sign of some kind of an incompetence, and what should be done to make this stop?
Not always. Has she had a normal delivery is what I need to know.
That
She's
she
not
hasn't
mentioned.
mentioned over here.
Mm, mm. See, usually some amount of loosening or urinary incontinence happens during the pregnancy and after a normal delivery because of the muscles becoming loose around that area in the perineal region, and that is why the Kegels exercises are important after a delivery, more so after a normal delivery, also after a cesarean section. It is not abnormal to have, but she needs to start doing these so-called Kegels exercises with the help of a physiotherapist as such.
Yeah.
And if it comes down with that, if the muscles of the perineum gets tightened, this will become all right. It's not usually long standing, but if it is not addressed now, this can cause urinary incontinence or stress incontinence. Stress incontinence is something, where there is some leakage of urine when somebody coughs or laughs and all that, particularly in the perimenopausal time. If this is not addressed after the delivery, it causes incontinence later on in life, like 45 years, 50 years, or a prolapse, the uterus coming down. All these problems can happen later on, so she needs to address this.
Dr.
Okay.
Girija, so that patient should come and see the physiotherapist who will teach her the abdominal exercises and the Kegels exercises, all those things which will help them for the later.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Definitely, we'll tell them that, and we'll even write to them after the webinar is done. Dr. Chetan, if you could only take up the next question. During pregnancy, this mother had a fibroid inside the uterus, which grew in size and shrinked after delivery for a few
Okay.
months. But sometimes there is a pain in the night in the area of the fibroid. Now, what should she do about this?
No, actually, this is a vague thing. As she has written, the fibroids increased in size during the pregnancy and shrunk after the delivery. That means
Correct.
fibroid was not so big, if I'm not mistaken, because it will not shrink so much. I don't know, she's not mentioned it's completely went back. Then she is telling sometime in the night she's got pain abdomen. Then for this, I want her to come to the hospital. We have to do the ultrasound to see whether in the same site the fibroid is increased or it is a new fibroid or there are other ones, and if it is there also, there is something called the degeneration. Depending upon what is wrong, we can give her a treatment, and we can also counsel her for the future.
Okay. And great. So, Dr. Suman Singh, there is a polyp which is 1 centimeters old in a 36-year-old female. So, should she be worried about this particular polyp? She's not mentioned any
So,
other signs and symptoms, nothing.
okay. So polyp basically is a small grape-like structure that is present in the inner lining of the uterus. Okay. Many a times people with polyps tend to have abnormal uterine bleeding patterns, like they can have prolonged bleedings, they can have heavy bleeding, they can have intermenstrual bleeding, and it can also interfere with the fertility potential of a lady. Polyps don't respond to medications. Okay, so if a polyp is causing a problem for her, then definitely she will have to undergo what is called as a polypectomy procedure. It is usually done with putting a hysteroscope inside the uterus, visualizing where the polyp is, and then removal of the polyp. It's also important to evaluate these in elderly women because sometimes this can be a precursor for cancers in some ladies. So it needs evaluation.
Okay, fine. Thank you for answering that. Dr. Ambika, I think our adenomyosis patient has a repeat question again. So she's asking, is the treatment for this good in the UAE? She's 27 years old and don't have any kids also. And if yes, can she undergo a natural pregnancy after radiology?
Coming to our questions, whether the treatment is good in UAE or not, I'm not very sure.
I don't know.
And radiology treatment again is very non-specific. I'm not sure what she is asking actually. I think it is better that she has a video consultation so that we can answer her one-to-one, depending on her history, because history becomes very, very important in the treatment. What problem she has. As I told, on an overall basis, adenomyosis does not always cause infertility, but if she's not able to conceive, what is the other thing? What are other parameters is what we need to assess, so she can have a video consultation.
Okay, so
Also,
similarly, yeah,
sorry
Dr.
to interrupt. Okay. Also, I don't think there is any radiological based treatment for adenomyosis. I think for at least fibroids there is talk of uterine artery embolism and things like that. But for adenomyosis there is no radiological based treatment. So probably it's just the evaluation part that she's talking about, or there is some confusion in her understanding of the problem. So I think it's better that she consults us and takes a second opinion.
And many times when do the ultrasound, there is always a confusion, to say the correct diagnosis of fibroids or adenomyosis. Sometimes people say the fibroid, sometimes it's adenomyosis. So, I think better to have proper evaluation.
Sure. Dr. Ambika, if you could answer the next question as well, which is, do we have any treatment to reduce PCOD and conceive naturally?
The treatment for PCOD is always with you. The polycystic ovaries is a lifestyle disease. So the lifestyle modification is very, very important when it comes to this hormonal problem of polycystic ovaries. So the diet and exercise is the most important parameters in the treatment of this polycystic ovaries. It is not something like we given medicine and polycystic ovaries will disappear. So the treatment is in your hands. You do that. Most of the people, the initial days, as such, in the initial symptoms when it starts, the irregularity in the periods, or the weight gain, or the rest of the things, if they look into their lifestyle and do regular exercise, regular important exercises plus the diet modification, take care of the diet and do a healthy diet, most of the times it settles down. It does not always need medicines. Medicines come into picture only when the treatment is not possible with this, and I mean, it's the treatment is not functioning, or she's looking for the pregnancies and it is not happening naturally, is when a treatment is necessary. It does not mean that they cannot conceive naturally. People have this misconception that polycystic ovaries means they'll need lot of treatment, or they will need IVF or anything like that, which is definitely not true. You can definitely conceive naturally.
Okay. Thank you so much, doctor. I'm sure that definitely puts the
Yeah, there is a
question.
lot of misconception of polycystic ovaries. Polycystic ovaries, because they read in Google and understand that there is a major problem. And the moment the scan shows polycystic ovaries, see, scan showing a polycystic ovaries is not a diagnosis at all. When the scan is
Mm.
showing polycystic ovaries, along with that, if you have irregular cycles, other symptoms or hormonal changes, is when we call it as polycystic ovarian disease. This is a PCOD. PCOS, I mean, PCOD or PCOS is all the same. Just the scan diagnosis of polycystic ovaries does not make you a patient. Please understand that.
Okay.
And
In
also, if
fact,
I can
when
add,
the
many
scan
times,
report comes, they go Google it, they come back
Hmm.
and show us. And if we don't talk anything about it, they just say, there is something called as PCOS. Why are you not telling me? Why are you not telling me like that? No, they keep on
I have,
prompting you on
and
that.
there are so many people who come and tell, Doctor, I have PCOS. No, it's not
Yeah.
disease.
yeah, and many times, when you tell them to lose weight and they're expecting medications, and you tell them,
Yeah.
you're overweight and you just lose weight and you lose 10% or 5 to 10% of your weight and things will sort of set right. They feel disappointed. They're like, where are the medications?
Yeah.
So
They
they don't
want to
That's why
understand.
it's specific. That's why I
Yeah, they
pointed out
don't
that the
understand.
treatment is with you. It's not with us.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
So I'm really disappointed to know there is no magic pill for weight loss.
There is no magic
Yeah.
for
Correct. Correct.
anything. For anything for that matter.
Dr.
Life
Suman,
was never so simple. Yeah.
yeah, so we have a person here asking, there is low-lying placenta in 15th weeks of the gestation. Will it affect the baby inside the womb?
Okay. So, placenta being low-lying early in pregnancy is often seen. Okay. The only concern over here is that the lady should not bleed. So she should not overexert herself. She should avoid having physical relations, and she should avoid long distance traveling, because we don't want anything to trigger a separation of this low lying placenta from its attachment. Any such separation will make the pregnancy a little at risk for abortions. Okay, so having said that, if she's able to take her necessary precautions and avoid any bleed, most of the times, okay, as in how the pregnancy advances, this placenta, the uterus stretches, and with it carries a placenta to the upper portion of the uterus. So most of the times it self-corrects. So we just have to be patient, give it time. Eventually she will have a 5th month scanning, and many a times when you do a 5th month scanning, you find that the placenta would have moved up. And it's only if a placenta is persisting to be in the lower segment, okay, at term, then this lady would need a cesarean section, because obviously we have a soft tissue part which is right at the entrance of the birth canal, and the baby has no place to come out. Okay, and second thing is, if anytime she gets into labor and she starts dilating, this placenta can separate and start bleeding, and then it can put her and the baby both at risk. So as long as she doesn't bleed, she's fine.
Okay, that's very reassuring, doctor. Dr. Chetan, another question related to pregnancy only. Now, here is a lady who is 30 years of age. First pregnancy was aborted at the age of, I'll let you know what number of weeks, but there were some abnormalities found in the TIFFA scan. So they did the abortion at 18th week in June 2020, this year itself. And now she's pregnant for the second time. Is there any chance of this getting repeated again? Because only after 6 months they'll know whether any problems are there. Right. They have also got the autopsy done of the first child, and it is suggested that it is a genetic abnormality for the baby. She's worried
Okay.
about her second pregnancy right now.
How many weeks is she right now?
She's just that she's
Don't know.
pregnant again. June
Okay, fine.
2020 was the first abortion. Yeah.
She
All
should be
right.
in the first trimester, Chetan, most likely, because
No problem. See, she's by age, she's all right. And if she had a first child, which was genetically something wrong, as she claims, and the abortion was done by the doctors, now we should explain there is a small risk of recurrence for which we do a 3rd month scan, which is called as the NTNB scan. Also, there is something called as the EFTS. And we can also do, there is something called the blood test called the NIPT, which is doing a more chromosomal analysis. So if that is abnormal, if somebody wants 100% chance that yes, is there a baby abnormality, then we do something called the amniocentesis and send it for the chromosomal analysis. All this takes a lot of counseling from the obstetrician as well as the scan doctor as well as a genetic expert also. But the patient should be mentally ready. We cannot just say one day, okay, today I'm doing 18th week scan, now we have to go for the amniocentesis and all those things. Slowly we have to put it step by step, but not that every pregnancy is an abnormal pregnancy. There is a very slight chance, but it's always better to find out about it and do the
Okay.
needful.
Okay, doctor. One more pregnancy related question, Dr. Suman, if you could answer this. She is a 34 plus 6 days pregnant. This is the first pregnancy, and she's having thick white discharge, and sometimes it is watery. Is it a common, or is it like the signs of labor?
Okay, you said 34 plus 6 weeks?
34 plus 6, yes.
Weeks, right? Yeah. All right. So she's in a 3rd trimester. So anytime in pregnancy, we would expect that the white discharge could be a little bit more than a lady who is not pregnant. So just the presence of white discharge is not a problem per se. But if she says that the discharge is thick, now the next thing I would want to know is whether she's having any other symptoms of itching or irritation in the private area, which could be suggestive of an infection. Typically, we would want to see her, because then if she has any evidence of any infections, whether it's fungal infections or bacterial infections, we would want to treat it, because these can trigger preterm contractions, okay, if not treated. Okay, so we will have to see her. And you said whether it is a sign of labor. Now, in pregnancy, there is something called a mucus plug that is there in the mouth of the uterus, that is the cervix. And typically, when the cervix dilates, this mucus plug can come out. Okay, sometimes it is associated with a little bit of spotting, and that's called show. Now, whether it is a mucus plug, again, we can diagnose it only by evaluation. So she would have to come and see a doctor.
Okay, so I would also like to tell all the viewers that we are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, and including Sundays. Otherwise, also we have doctors around the clock, and there would be someone coming and attending in case of any emergencies. Our fetal medicine doctors are also available, who will be able to do a fast diagnosis and help address your queries and your health needs immediately. Dr. Ambika, one of the persons who's asked a question here, that she delivered her second baby on 13th of April 2020 by a C-section. When can
Okay.
she plan for a tubectomy operation, and will bed rest be required after tubectomy?
Tubectomy surgery can be done even after 6 weeks after the cesarean section, when they are planning for a laparoscopic tubectomy. See, there are two kinds of tubectomy which is done. One is a laparoscopic surgery, the other is an open surgery. Open surgery is where a small cut is done similar to the cesarean section but not as big as that, and which can be done during the cesarean section also. But if she's planning for a laparoscopy, 6 weeks is ideal. I think she's already 6 months now, almost 5 6 months now. She can definitely plan for the tubectomy. And laparoscopic tubectomy is just a daycare surgery. That means morning she comes, we operate them, and evening we send them back. This does not need bed rest, definitely not, because laparoscopic surgery, the advantage is the pain, post-operative pain is definitely less, and the recovery is faster. She can do it over the weekend, and she is working Monday she can be back to work. This is the usual thing. So you shouldn't have to get worried that, again, it's already 6 months now, I've taken rest, I'm going back to office, now I do another surgery, should I take rest and all that. She does not need
Okay.
much rest. Weekend surgery.
But a lot of them do. I've seen a lot of them planning this tubectomy during the C-section as well. Is that
That's
very
what I
common?
meant. Yeah, when a cesarean section is done, the second one, whenever is done, and they want to do the tubectomy also, it can be definitely done along with the cesarean section. It is not an extra surgery which is done. Okay.
Okay.
Can I just add there that a family planning operation which is done at the time of cesarean section, one will have to be a little careful sometimes because certain metabolic problems of the baby and certain cardiac problems of the baby cannot be detected at birth. Okay, so even if you have a pediatrician attending the delivery and saying that the baby is fine, some problems can show up only later once the baby starts lactating, and the cardiac problems can show up a little later. So we do counsel our patients about this, okay, and then it is their call whether they want to do it at the time of the cesarean or they would want to defer it till the first year is over. Typically, pediatricians are more comfortable with doing a permanent procedure like a family planning procedure at the end of the first year of the baby's life.
Okay.
In fact, it's our duty to counsel them, saying that if she has not had it for the last 6 months after delivery, why don't you wait for another few months? And when the baby is big enough, why don't you do it? Meanwhile, you can use a temporary methods.
Okay. And Dr. Chetan, here is a mother who was, it's 2 months after the C-section delivery. Any vaccination recommended for the mother also now?
Yeah, we have to give them a HPV vaccine that's called as a Gardasil, that is to prevent CA cervix in the later life if she has not taken it earlier.
Okay. And
In fact,
Dr. Suman,
in fact, why we say like this is she has come to us now for the follow. If we don't do it now, I don't know when she's going to come next. So it's the best chance that we catch hold of the mother, counsel her, and give the vaccination. Also, we have to educate her so that in case she has a girl child, when the girl child is around 11 to 13 years time, she should get her girl child also vaccinated.
okay.
Yeah.
And
The advantage
Dr.
of vaccinating, sorry, the
Huh.
advantage of vaccinating, girls when they're younger than 14 years is that you need only 2 vaccines, and it gives
Yeah,
them almost 100%, protection
vaccine
against
protection.
cancer. Whereas people who get vaccinated at a later age, they need 3 doses.
It's not 100%.
So
Yeah, it's 3
yeah,
vaccines and
and
not 100.
they need 3 doses after 14 years of age, and the protection also is not 100%. So the sooner they vaccinate their daughters, the better.
Okay. So
Like
Dr.
we said,
Suman, have a
neglect their health,
pregnant.
so it's a good opportunity to educate them about their own
Yeah.
health.
Okay. So Dr.
Sorry.
Suman, I have a question for you from a mother. She's 6 months pregnant and she wants to know whether it's safe to travel. She not mentioned mode of travel and distance and everything.
All right. So I'm assuming that she's a low-risk pregnancy and there are no other factors which would interfere with that decision of travel. Typically, in current Corona times, okay, we would say do not travel unless there is a real emergency because you are going to unnecessarily put yourself at risk of contracting the infection from your fellow passengers. Otherwise, having said that, long-distance travel is completely safe during the second trimester. Typically, we would recommend somebody to defer travel in the first trimester and again after 34 weeks for risk of abortion in the first trimester and also for risk of preterm delivery in the third trimester, especially after 34 weeks.
Okay. So, Dr. Ambika, next question for you. Here is a patient. She is 37 years of old. Since the time of the lockdown, that's since a couple of months, she is getting uncontrollable pain on the second day of her period. And but before this, before the lockdown had started, her periods were normal, and she was not getting this much of pain. And usually the period lasts for 5 days. So, is there any hormonal imbalance? What can she do to seek the advice?
As such, also pain during periods is normal. Even though it has never happened before, it can start happening. Or if it was happening before, then it can stop happening without the medications also. Uh, if she's been having pain which is severe, the first thing she can do is take a regular painkiller like a meftal or consult the doctor and take the medicine. If the medicine is not helping, is when she definitely needs to come and see the doctor, because I mean she's like 37, around 40, so we need to see whether there's any problem in the uterus which is newly starting or something like that, which was not there before, something like a fibroid or an adenomyosis or something like that, which can cause severe pain, what we call as a dysmenorrhea. So let her get back to us.
Okay. So then madam can always book a video consult to us or walk into our hospital for a consultation.
Definitely yes. Definitely yes.
Dr. Suman, another question on abnormal bleeding for you. So here is a person, she has delivered in August 2019 through C-section. That's almost a year now, more than a year. And even now, the period is without flow and only there is normal spotting, especially while breastfeeding.
So if she's breastfeeding, we would expect, there is something called a hormone called prolactin in the body that increases and that suppresses a period. So a lady who is lactating definitely can have irregular periods, can have less periods, and it's perfectly normal. If she is worried about it, she can get it evaluated. The only thing we need to make sure is that she's not pregnant. And if that is not the case, we can completely let her be, and once she stops lactation, and in spite of that, after 2 to 3 months, if her periods do not come back to its normal cycle, that's when she needs to consult us.
Okay. Dr. Chetan, I have a question for you. Somebody is asking on behalf of a friend. She is 29 years old and pregnant for the second time. In the ultrasound of the 5th month, only a single umbilical artery is found. They want to know whether this is a major issue for the baby or for the mother, and will the baby be born with any abnormalities?
No, for the mother, there is no issues. But any baby which is born with a single umbilical artery, there is always a chance that sometimes the growth of the baby can be less, and she can also go into preterm labor. And rarely, babies with single umbilical artery, some of them can have some cardiac issues or the kidney issues. So usually the fetal medicine specialist would have told the heart is fine, kidney is fine, and nothing to worry. But we do the serial monitoring of the growth and the Doppler flows. The Doppler flow is normal. We do deliver them at term like any other person. So it's like a reassuring thing. She should be delivered in a higher centers.
Okay. So, Dr. Ambika, I have a question for you. This is a little longish question. She's 27 years old, currently in her 9th month of pregnancy. This is her first pregnancy. 5 to 6 years back, she got operated for fibroid in the left breast and it got removed. But now she can still feel a lump in both the breasts. When consulted, it was said it is not harmful and there are chances of it going off by itself during the time of pregnancy and feeding. So, ma'am, she wanted to know whether the fibroid would heal itself during feeding, or any medications should be taken.
Okay. See, on overall basis, if she had got operated, it must have been a fibroadenoma of the breast, which sometimes can recur. That is the first thing. Fibroadenomas usually something which is palpable, does not disappear by themselves, but they're not harmful. There are a lot of changes in pregnancy which happens in the breast and during lactation and all that. So it does not mean that if she's feeling something, it might not be a fibroadenoma. And if somebody has told that it is not harmful, it can be a fibroadenoma or it can be the regular breast changes. On an overall basis, she should not worry is what I can tell her. Rest of things can be evaluated after the delivery. That means the repeat sonomammography, that is a scan of the breast, can be done to see if there is fibroadenoma or how big it is, and how, is it altering her lactation or anything like that. And once she finishes her lactation, it can be removed only if it is causing any pain for her or if it is very big or anything like that. So let us not worry about those fibroadenomas at present, but let us see the doctor to do a sonomammography, that is a scan of the breast.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Because all the lumps in the breast are not cancerous.
They're not cancerous.
That is the very important thing people have to understand, because to know about this lump in the breast, the first impression is something about cancer and all that. People start getting worried. So get a scan done, get it examined, so that you don't have to worry about it, whether it's cancer or anything like that. A simple biopsy can be done to look into whether it's malignant or benign, so that you can be relieved on that.
Okay, so I'm getting a lot of questions from a lot of viewers. So I'm going to kind of ask and kind of take as many questions as possible before we kind of end the session. Dr. Suma, the next question is for you. She's 32 years old, had a C-section when she was 25 years old. Right now, her weight is 76 kgs, and she had an abortion one time when she was 26 years old. After that, she's been trying to get pregnant, but she's not. So what kind of treatment should she do to get pregnant again now for a second child? She's right now 30 years old.
Right. So she will have to, undergo a few tests. Okay. First of all, we will need to know whether her periods are regular or not, to understand whether she's ovulating well on her own or not. Second thing is the husband will also have to be evaluated. There has been a gap of almost, I think, 7 years now between her last pregnancy and the current situation wherein she is. We also have to do a few basic tests to evaluate her blood counts, her sugars, her thyroid, a few hormone tests like a prolactin, FSH, LH to see her egg reserve, and an ultrasound to see if she has any fibroids in the uterus, any adenomyosis, any cysts in the ovaries. And if all that is good and she's ovulating well and the husband's counts are normal and they've been trying during the fertile period, you'd be surprised many times couples don't even try during the fertile period. They're just married for a long time, but then they're working at different towns and cities and they're just working at different hours. They don't even get together during the time that they need to be together, so that you have to understand those logistics and see if everything else has been all right, then she also needs to evaluate her tubes, because sometimes if she's had an abortion in the past, there could be a small possibility of a tube getting blocked. And there is a simple test called a HSG or a hysterosalpingogram, wherein a dye can be pushed inside the uterus from below and see if the dye is coming out through the tubes to see if they're patent. At the end of the day, we would need an egg to come out of the ovary and get into the tube, and the sperm also to enter into the uterus and get into the tube, and the two need to fertilize in the tube. So we need to know that the tubes are patent. And yeah, she needs these evaluations, and then we can, guide her and help her to achieve the next pregnancy.
She should lose her weight also.
Yes, yes.
She's 76 kgs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Dr. Chetan, here is someone who delivered 8 months back. There is still pain near the ovary on the left side, and it never stopped even after delivery. It pains occasionally. Is this something to be worried about?
8 months back, is it with C-section?
Not mentioned.
Hello?
Yeah,
Not
it is not
mentioned.
mentioned. Not mentioned.
Okay. Whether it's with C-section or with a normal delivery, anything, if she says it's there from 8 months on the right side or whichever side in the lower abdomen, I think, we have to see her clinically. If it is cesarean section, sometimes there is something called a granuloma, foreign body granuloma can be there. They will only tell there is a pain near my ovary. In fact, they will not know whether ovary is deep inside. And then if externally, if they look fine, then we do the internal checkup, that is by bimanual checkup, to see whether there's any tenderness in the adnexe or in whether the uterus is moving with pain. And if that is also okay, or if there's a pain, then we have to ask them for the ultrasound to see whether there's any subserous fibroid or there's any cyst in the ovary, whether that is the one which is causing pain. And if it is on the right side, there is always a rare possibility of even ruling out the appendicitis also.
Fine. So, Dr. Ambika, I have a question for you from a person here that she's in her 28th week of pregnancy. At her 21st week, she had a cerclage. Doctor suggested culture sensitivity to be done as there was infection in the blood test. Report shows occasional inflammatory cells, Enterococcus faecalis, colony count is 10,000 CFU per ml. I have taken medications for 5 days as suggested. Will this be a cause for any preterm delivery, and what precautions can be taken to prevent?
Okay. See, a cerclage, whenever it has been put at 21 weeks, it looks like more of because of the cervix was little short or something like that. Cerclage is of two types. One is an emergency cerclage, other is an elective procedure. We put in this cerclage usually at 13, 14 weeks in the beginning of second trimester, whenever there has been a previous history of short cervix or early preterm labor or anything like that. By her history or her question, I understand that it has been put at 20, 21 weeks because the cervix was short at the 5th month scan, most likely. With a cerclage at this point of time, there is always chances of a preterm labor, that means early delivery. So she has to be careful and follow all the doctor's orders. Pertaining to the infection as such, the infection needs to be treated because it can be an additive factor for a preterm labor. So both those things needs to be addressed, and she has to be on the medicine. But yes, even with all the medicines on, also a short cervix can lead on to preterm labor. So she has to be under observation. So she needs to be careful is what I can tell her.
Okay,
but not very too much on that, because with a good NICU and all that, even beyond 29 weeks, 30 weeks also, babies will be okay. Babies are being okay. In Rainbow, as you know, even a 600 grams babies have all done well. Don't get worried.
Yeah, and I must tell you that since we started here in Rainbow Bannerghatta Road, we have actually successfully treated and graduated more than 1,200 babies from our NICU. So
Yeah.
it's a very good setup for both maternity and neonatology care.
Yeah.
Dr. Suman, another lady here who was in her 7 months of pregnancy, what she's asking is the first delivery was because of a C-section because the pain in the right leg was so much that like as though the pelvic bone had broken. Now she is pregnant. February she got pregnant, 7 months pregnant now. She wants to know after the second delivery is done, would she be able to feed the baby? Will she experience similar pains? And right now there is calcium deficiency also for her. So she's kind of worried about on all this front.
Okay. So a cesarean delivery does not really interfere so much with lactation. So if she's fed her first baby and she's not had any lactational failures in the first pregnancy, I really don't see why she should have a problem in this pregnancy. Coming to the second part of it was whether she'll have pains. Now it depends upon what was the cause of that pain, whether it is sciatica, whether there was something else that was causing a pressure on any nerves or any other orthopedic problem. Sometimes they have these back problems which again can press on the nerves and can cause leg pains. So that needs to be evaluated and then we can comment on that. Calcium deficiency, most of them are on calcium supplements in pregnancy. So I really do not expect them to have calcium deficiencies, and plus they must be, taking a high calcium diet. We do advise our pregnant mothers to take at least, half a liter of milk or milk products every day to keep up with their, calcium requirements. We are also, supplementing them with vitamin D. So many a times we find that the women are deficient in vitamin D, and then what happens is whatever calcium that they take in the diet does not really get absorbed into the body very well. So probably she could check on that and improve her calcium intake. And yeah, I don't think she should worry about calcium. That's something which is very easily treatable.
Okay, and she can breastfeed the baby as well once it is.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
should.
So, Dr. Chetan, one question for you. There is a hardening and pain in the breast, and there is a soft swelling in the underarm in one of the sides. Is it a cause of concern, and what should the person do?
Yeah, in fact, you have not mentioned the age of the person. If she's in the perimenopause age group or anything which is 35 and above, it is a cause of concern. If there's a hardening and some lumpy like feeling, we have to rule out any lump in the breast, which mainly I want to note the malignancies. So for that, first clinical evaluation, history taking, and the mammogram, and also sometimes we if there is any lump, we have to take a biopsy. It's called the excision biopsy, and even lymph node biopsy to see if there is a cancer at what stage, where it is spread. Depending upon that, the treatment involves. So it is a
Okay.
concern.
Okay. So again, she can always go video consult with us or walk down to our hospital for a
Yes,
consultation,
yes,
and we will
yes,
check. Yeah.
yes,
So,
please.
Dr. Ambika, this is the
Ideally,
last question for
to be
you.
seen in person because it's a hard
Yes,
lump. Okay, she should
yeah.
be seen in
Perhaps
person.
better is to
How,
see. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So, Dr. Ambika, this is the last question for you. Then I'll just take up some comments from everyone because we already passed 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So here is a person who is in the 18th weeks had an abortion because there were abnormalities, multiple abnormalities in the baby, which was diagnosed in the early anamnese scan, and they sent it for a FISH, microarray, and everything. And then it was diagnosed with Edwards syndrome and trisomy 18. Now they want to plan the baby again. It's been 3 months after the first abortion. Can they go ahead safely for a second pregnancy now?
Whenever there has been a chromosomal anomaly in the first one which has been detected, they need to do a preconceptional counseling. That means they need to get to us. So a team of the gynecologist and a fetal medicine specialist and a geneticist should see them. It is ideal for them to do something called as a parental karyotyping. That means a karyotyping, which is a chromosomal analysis of both the parents of them, will be done to see if there are any problems and whether it is safe for them to conceive for the next one. If accordingly, if there is any abnormality, particular treatment has to be given, or what is the next plan for them before they conceive this time has to be told to them. It is very important for them to understand that all the genetic problems are not always recurrent. That means it's not always that it'll be again the same problem, but yes, they need to consult the doctor.
Okay, thank you.
And
Any
preconception
last?
folic acid would help a lot of. Sorry, can I add? Preconception folic acid would help many times to reduce the chance of chromosomal defects, and an NT scanning and especially a double marker test will definitely throw light on the risk of the trisomy 18. So that's one of the markers that we evaluate. Yeah.
Trisomy 21.
Okay, so I would just ask for some last closing comments from all the doctors, starting with Dr. Chetan. Would you like to say something before we end the session?
Now, I want to wish all the mothers and the children all the best. And please don't get scared of this corona. If you're not able to come to the hospital, please, you're free to have a video consultation any day and talk to us and sort out your problems. Don't be shy. Don't be scared. Take care of your health. We are there to help you. Thank you. All the best for you.
You, Dr. Suman, a few words from you.
Yeah, I think it was a nice interactive session, and like Dr. Chetan mentioned, is that I would recommend that women take up this opportunity of telemedicine and reach out to the doctors so that they can discuss their problems and come to the right diagnosis. Many a times they Google up and then they go on a different track, and by the time then they come to the doctors, we find that a lot of precious time is lost. So consult the doctors, take the right treatment, and of course stay home and stay safe.
Yeah. Dr. Ambika, a few words from you
Yeah.
as well, please.
It was a very nice session. I mean, as both of them told, stay healthy, all of you women. Take care of your health and come back to us whenever there has been any problem through telemedicine or directly. Take care.
Thank you very much, doctors. Thank you for your busy time, and I hope we've answered most of the questions that the listeners have asked us. There are a lot. We will still get back to you and try and answer it from the doctors as best as possible. And this particular recording will also be made available on YouTube, so you can always go back and see what the questions were answered, and if could help any other questions that any of your relatives may have. Thank you again, everyone. Have a good day. Stay home and stay
Thank
safe.
you. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks. Thank you.